losing control to technology, our minds usually jump to some kind of dramatic takeover scenario. But what if the real process is quieter, more gradual? And what if it's already happening? This isn't a story about a sudden replacement. It's about how we're slowly and structurally being optimized right out of the loop. Okay, let's really dive into this. This quote, it just hits the nail on the head. The process isn't some big fight, it's structural. See, what happens is that systems start to absorb the decisions first, and we, the humans, we're still there, but our role becomes less and less relevant. So to really get what's going on, we first have to break down the popular story that's floating around. Because honestly, that narrative is pretty misleading. So on one side, you have the common fear, right? All those dramatic stories about jobs just vanishing overnight. But the reality of how these systems actually work, well, it's way more subtle. Systems don't need to fire people. They just find ways to reroute workflows around them. It's this slow, structural thing where your control just evaporates way before your job title ever does. And that right there is the key. A person can still have their job, their desk, their official title, but they've already lost any real say in what happens. The actual power has already shifted. It's now baked into the system's architecture, into the algorithms and the data flows that are running just under the surface. So what's the engine driving all this? Well, look, it's not some evil plan or a big conspiracy. It's actually a pretty simple and relentless process called optimization. At its heart, optimization is all about efficiency. Systems are built with one clear goal in mind, to do things faster, more consistently, and more predictably than a human ever could. It's all about getting rid of the bumps in the road, the variance, to get a process that's smooth, reliable, and ultimately way more controllable. And this really shows you the fundamental clash right here. What the system wants is the total opposite of what human judgment brings to the table. A system is all about speed, right? But we humans, we introduce delay because we need to think. A system demands perfect consistency, but we bring nuance and we make exceptions based on the context. So this sets up a kind of inescapable logic. Think about it. If your number one goal is to get rid of variance, and humans are the biggest source of that variance, well, then this system is naturally going to be designed to push human input to the side. It's nothing personal, it's just baked into the design. Okay, so what does this actually feel like for the person working inside one of these systems? How does their job actually change over time? Well, the path is usually pretty clear. At first, you might be the one making all the calls. You have full agency. But then, as the system gets smarter, your role changes. Now you're just a reviewer, basically giving a thumbs up or thumbs down to options the system has already cooked up for you. And eventually, you become an exception handler. You only get involved when the whole thing breaks down. With every single step, a huge chunk of your actual power just disappears. And this feeling of losing power, it's subtle. It's not one big event. It's the little things, right? Like forms that are already filled out for you, or having fewer and fewer real choices. Or maybe you get these fancy dashboards that show you everything that's going on, but you can't actually do anything about it. You're still clicking the buttons for sure, but you're not really deciding anymore. This right here, it just perfectly captures that whole illusion of control. A system can keep up the appearance of choice. You still get to click the approve button. But if some algorithm already decided the outcome way before it even got to you, then your click is just for show. It has no real consequence. Okay, but this isn't just about one person's job or how they feel. Let's zoom out for a second. Because this slow chipping away at human agency, it creates some really big structural risks for the whole system. You see, when we design human unpredictability out of the system, we might also be designing out its ability to bounce back, its resilience. So you get these systems that are super, super efficient, but they're also incredibly fragile. They work perfectly as long as everything goes exactly as planned. But what happens when something totally unexpected pops up, something that needs a real person to adapt? The system on its own, it might just freeze up. And when you scale this up, you end up in a really tricky spot. We get these super complex systems where the humans involved have very little real power. And because of that, accountability gets all fuzzy. So when things go sideways, who's actually responsible? Is it the operator who clicked the button but had no real choice? Or is it the system, which has no consciousness to be responsible in the first place? So
This all brings us to a really important shift in how we need to look at this. If we actually want to keep humans in the loop in a meaningful way, we have to totally rethink what control even means.
All right, so here's the big takeaway. Control isn't some perk that a system grants you. It's not just a setting you can flip on or off. It has to be a fundamental part of the system's design. If we want to build systems where people still have real agency, that agency has to be purposefully and intentionally built right into the core architecture from day one. This channel explains money, artificial intelligence, and decision-making as interconnected systems. No hype, no gurus, no personal branding. New explainers weekly.